Oh, there he is. He's a big guy. Wow, look at that.
Well, you know what they say, there's no such thing as bad press, is there?
Not when it's properly managed.
Well, we could do with a bit less of this sort of press.
People are still a little on edge.
Just as well, then, you can relax and let me take the direct hit.
They'll be hanging on your every word, Rick. You're used to that, aren't you?
Then not disappoint them, then. Excuse me.
He has quite a way with people.
Yeah, especially when the press are flooding the gates.
Stepping up his game. Quite frankly, it's good to see.
I'm going to say a few words first. Yeah. Then you can introduce the video. And say a few words if you want.
Almost forgot. Tissues, because I know what you like. And the secret weapon to get us through. Jellies.
This is a memorial service, not the Clifton Odeon.
All right, mate. Mr. Cullum?
Watching me wait.
Ladies and gentlemen, we come here to remember our colleague, Lindsay Jones. If there's anything positive to come out of the brutal and shocking event which cut short her young life, a life full of hope, full of promise, it is the renewed appreciation that I think we all feel for what Lindsay did on a daily basis. The word heroic is often misused, but that's exactly what Lindsay was. Every day she came into work and put on her uniform, as many of you do. She did her job to enable us to do ours. Every day she put herself at risk to keep us free from risk. Lindsay Jones was a hero. Now, Lindsay's parents are with us here today, but I'm going to call on the young man who had hoped to share his future with Lindsay, share his dreams. Her fiancé, Stephen Churchill.
I'd like to show you something. I took this on Lindsay's last birthday. This is what she was like.
Looking forward to picnic?
Yeah.
What do we have? Champagne?
Yes.
Cool.
You're in as well.
All right, I'm coming in now.
Cheers.
Cheers, Doc.
Was a bold and magnificent dream. And as a young medical student, I dreamt of reaching those heights where all my staff would be safe to practice. What happened to Lindsay shows us how fragile that dream has become. These are tough and challenging times, and tough measures are called for if we are to nurture and safeguard that dream and make a change for the greater good. It's time to take responsibility. That is why today, as Director of Surgery, I announce a proposal, a zero-tolerance policy. Zero tolerance of violence.
Zero tolerance.
Zero tolerance of ignorance. Now, I know that we're still some way short of a secure national health service free at the point of delivery, but I believe that we can take a step closer to it if we act now. Let us at least have faith in ourselves that we can make a change. We owe that much to the memory of Lindsay Jones.
I assume you knew all about this.
It's the first I've heard of it.
Yes. Thank you.
Now, that's what I call leading from the front. It was inspiring.
Well, that's the job, isn't it? If an idea's good, then you may as well commit to it.
Vigorous, I like that. I'd be very interested to discuss implementing your policy right across the board into every aspect of health practice.
Well, it's going to take a major shift in thinking, but that's exactly the way forward, as I see it. And I believe it's going to be a huge benefit to staff and to patients.
I look forward to hearing about that. Well done.
Congratulations, Griffin.
Yeah.
Sleepy rhetoric.
It's not just rhetoric.
No?
Come on,
Rick, you both know that poor girl was in the wrong place at the wrong time.
Oh, yeah.
There's nothing you can do about that. Zero tolerance or no zero tolerance.
That could be.
Do you know what? I'm still amazed that people are taken by a few buzzwords.
Well, of course, the acid test is putting them into action, which I assure you I intend to.
Meaning? Sorry?
I have high hopes for this place, and I'm confident that I can make a change. A real one. Excuse me.
Long live the king.
I just wanted to assure you that what happened this morning, I've taken steps to make sure it doesn't happen again.
Thank you. Mr. Griffin, can I just say you were really great in there? You know, poor Maria's not stopped blubbing.
Rick, well done. Interesting speech.
I understand that there was some sort of disruption in AAU this morning. Security was called?
Yes, but Mr. Griffin got stuck right in there, so...
Thank you, Nurse Jackson. A patient with mental health issues. But I can't have my staff subjected to any kind of abuse.
And we have managed to contain the incident.
The patient is under observation and won't be back on the ward without a carer.
Shall we walk?
We are lucky someone like him is in charge.
Yeah, he really knows what he's doing, doesn't he? Don't you think, Mr. Cullen?
Time will tell.
I must say, I would have expected you to discuss this big plan of yours with me before announcing it to the press and staff. Zero tolerance?
Carr seems to think it's a good idea.
Yes, well, Mr. Carr is not the only member of board.
Which is why I was going to ask you to assemble the whole board this afternoon. I just need to put the finishing touches to my proposal.
Yes, well, I would be happier if you'd go through it with me. You need to clarify exactly what you mean by zero tolerance.
And I'd be only too happy to, but duty calls. Don't look so worried, Jane. It's all in hand.
Yes, well, I hope it is, because if you go in front of the board having made your big statements and they veto it, well, it'll be very embarrassing for you and for the hospital.
No, things in proportion. Jane?
He just came in unannounced. I was in the middle of a meeting with Toby. He just passed through.
I want to make an official complaint.
You really need to speak to Mrs.
Oh, there he is, the man himself.
Well, perhaps we could just take a moment to clarify the issue.
Oh, it's clear to me. Here am I, waiting to go into theatre, and you come along and decide I don't deserve it.
With respect, Mr. Moore, that's not what I said. What I was suggesting...
Yeah, that I go and lose weight before you so much as take a second look at me.
I appreciate you must be upset.
Upset? Upset? What, is this some kind of joke?
Can we just try to stay calm?
Maybe we should discuss this issue when I have had a chance to clarify the situation with Mr. Griffin.
Don't think I don't know what this is all about. Saving money. Trying to make up for all that security you got buzzing around the place. Making cuts. Oh, let's target the overweight people.
That's not so. This is about your long-term healthcare prospects, but physically and socially...
What's the thing? People don't get hernias. You can guarantee that, can you? I'll tell you what's going on here. People like you look at people like us and think, you're fat. That means you're lazy, you're selfish, you're ignorant. I'm quite comfortable living with what I see in the mirror.
Well, that may be so, but this is not the time. Your son is here.
Have you any idea what me and that lad went through together? I brought him up single-handed since he were 8-year-old. And now you're trying to use me as some kind of pawn in your political minefield.
Well, you've clearly misunderstood...
Don't you patronize me!
Mr. Moore, please calm down, or I shall call security.
Get him settled back in bed, and then we'll take another view. But unfortunately, my staff are increasingly at the receiving end of this kind of outburst.
But we really need to do all we can our end to prevent matters getting to this point. I thought you had everything under control.
Yes, but you can't get away from the fact that some patients are going to get angry and defensive, especially if you hit a sore spot.
Yes, well, there are only so many complaints in this area I can fend off. Especially when we're not all working from the same page. Yet.
Quite right. Change is good, but we need to ensure that we implement it smoothly. I'd be interested to get Mr. Spencer's take on all this. Mr. Moore's his patient, isn't he?
And he is of the same opinion as you, isn't he?
I'm sure he appreciates both sides of the argument.
Right, because as I've already said, if you want to lead from the front, you better make sure there's someone following you before you meet the board.
Oh, I don't think you've had the pleasure of being introduced to Mr. Hope. He's one of the leading CT consultants in his field.
Sorry, handshake, I'll have to wait. Donuts come first. Although, from what I hear, I'd better hide this from Mr. Griffin, or if I fall ill, he won't want to treat me.
Such a farce at lunchtime. Ended up in the morgue at dinner time. Thank goodness some of us have more than zero tolerance.
Rick, a word. This is exactly what I was trying to prevent. That reporter he called has rung for a response, being aware that this wasn't his first complaint, only to discover Mr. Moore rushed to theatre.
Look, we just have to make clear what the context was.
The context is this issue was inadequately handled. You failed to clear a potentially explosive policy with me, and now I'm left to put out fires left, right and centre. I will naturally have to update the board, and I very much hope when you meet with them you can assuage their doubts, as well as mine.
When you were talking this morning about zero tolerance for violence, ignorance, what exactly did you mean?
All right, look, let's stop beating around the bush. In the last 4 months, there have been 9 separate incidents when staff have been physically and verbally abused. And we don't know how many cases have gone unreported.
Yes, but those...
Last year, this hospital spent £100,000 on a statue for the garden, and we spent £50,000 on extra security for the staff. I think you'll agree that it's time we reassessed our priorities. There's been a fall of up to 41% in the number of patients presenting with coronary thrombosis in those hospital trusts which have persuaded obese smokers to change their lifestyles.
But if that means excluding some patients from the off?
I would never dream of excluding anyone. Quite the opposite.
Meaning?
I'm proposing that we ask the consultant body to approve a protocol whereby every patient consultation will include an examination of lifestyle to enable us to help patients make tiny but significant improvements to their own health.
What, a selection process?
No. Quite the contrary. I would argue that we'd be treating the whole patient. And when people see the benefits, not just to patients but to staff, then I believe that the wind will blow in the opposite direction. Now, look, I understand perfectly well that this is going to take time and it's not going to make me exactly Mr. Popular.
Well, it's certainly going to be controversial.
Jayne, the system is broken. It needs to be fixed. Changes will have to be made, and of course they will be resisted. But I'm prepared to lead that fight. And I think you'll be hard-pushed to find anyone who feels as committed to this hospital as I do.